Well, I apologize for being a little tardy today, but here we are. This is Robert Phoenix with the Astro Weather, and I'm just going to kind of kick it here a little bit before people show up. And hey, you get an apology from me today. I got in late last night, kind of a long travel day, and got in late, and you know, normally I usually do the show ahead of time. I plug it in, program everything so that bright and early when you get up, you get that notification. And last night I was kind of like, you know what? I'm just going to get up early tomorrow and I'm going to, I didn't feel like really doing a whole lot last night since a lot of my day was about doing and driving. And I just wanted to fucking kind of do nothing, honestly. And that's unfortunate because that's when it kind of bites you in the ass, doesn't it? When you decide that you want to do nothing. So I normally get up pretty early, and I couldn't sleep last night, and I think I woke up at about I don't know 4 in the morning after getting maybe 3 hours sleep, and I decided to go back to sleep again, just to try to uh, be somewhat rested and have some kind of uh, tangible and cohesive presence this morning. And then I woke up and it's 8 o'clock. I should be doing this right now. Anyway, the rest of the week won't be like this, I promise you. And we will do 15 minutes of flame, although it will be a bit later as well. So I want to thank everybody for being here and showing up. And we have a lot to cover. So before we do that, I just want to say thank you all for being here. Appreciate each and every one of you, and you're showing up and being a part of this experience every day. All right, let's do this. Let's do this. Let's put the weather in there. Let's put the weather in there. We got a lot happening. Boy, oh boy, do we have a lot happening weather-wise. Yeah. All right, here we go. Mars. If I had some trumpets, if I had some trumpets to herald the arrival of Mars, they would be blasting at full volume as Mars comes in conjunction with Pluto. And that is explosive energy. Explosive energy. And I wonder, let's just do this. Let's just do a quick search on the news front. Do we have any explosions? Well, here we go. This is interesting from a mundane perspective. House Speaker Mike Johnson effectively kills Senate supplemental Ukraine aid bill. He's an Aquarian, right? Mike Johnson is an Aquarian, and he kills the bill. And I don't know what the forces were behind that, but that's kind of explosive in some ways. That's explosive. Here we have another kind of explosive outbreak here. Again, this is not explosive in terms of chemicals, but Tennessee Democrat Rep Steve Cohen furious that Americans didn't stand for the Black national anthem at the Super Bowl. Right? Again, that's kind of Aquarian in a lot of ways. Like we're going to have a different national anthem, or we're going to have two national anthems, and this guy's angry and upset that people did not stand for the national anthem. So right now we don't have any real news items that are explosive in general. But look for, again, these are things that are going to be related to events that are occurring around us. And the Mars transit is, fairly it's fairly slow, meaning that, we're going to have it today. Pluto is slightly ahead of Mars. And then tomorrow, I believe Mars moves slightly ahead of Pluto. And that to me is that's the explosive energy. Let's just zoom in on this. So we have, oh man, it's so hard to read. I feel like I need like giant spectacles now to read this shit. Mars is at Aqua 1910, and then Pluto is at Aqua 4056. So tomorrow we should have Mars just slightly ahead of Pluto, if not bang on. And I think that's the most explosive component of this energy. And we also have this Jupiter square going on, which is interesting. Again, we're just talking about from the big picture perspective. Jupiter makes everything bigger, right? So when we have an explosion, it's not a small explosion, it's a big fucking explosion, right? This is kind of where we are right now over the next couple of days. And Taurus, clearly we're dealing with land, right? We're dealing with land. I could see things like fertilizer plants exploding. We've been in this fifth generation asymmetric warfare phase now for a couple of years, right? So it looks like things like refineries, processing plants. They've all been kind of in the crosshairs, and we've seen this stuff happen. And even processing plants when it has to do with things like animal protein, animal products. Like, this is, to me, this is what, for all intents and purposes, this is terrorist energy. This is terrorist energy. Okay, so we've got that. Like, that's out there. This is a big warning sign, ladies and gentlemen. This Mars Pluto conjunction, especially tomorrow and then the next day, is a significant warning sign. And eventually Mars is going to catch up and start to square Uranus. That's a ways out with the transit, ultimately not too far out, but it's going to get there. But that's not the most immediate thing that we have to deal with. The immediate thing we have to deal with is this explosive, intense energy. And I was personally, on a personal level, I was feeling it yesterday, right? I could feel these forces of just like, disruption inside of my body. And I was going through some intense states of kind of I wouldn't call it turmoil per se, but I was definitely getting riled up, right? In my own way, I was getting riled up and feeling very explosive. That not because I didn't have because I ate bad food, but because I just was, it's just in there, right? It's just in there. And I think we all have this kind of ticking time bomb inside of us. And one of the things that we get into with Aquarius, and I've talked about this before, is this idea that the individual, as a unit or a group, dare I say, the collective or a collective. Aquarius is weird because the individual is greater than the sum of its parts, but the group is greater than the sum of the parts of the individual. I mean, it kind of goes both ways with Aquarius. And it feels to me like with this energy, this Mars-Pluto conjunction, that on some level, and that we're all looking for some degree of recognition. And whatever it is, whether you want to be recognized as a good parent or a good grandparent, or you want to be recognized as somebody on the job who provides something of quality or value, or maybe you feel like your friends are kind of taking advantage of you, and in your social group, you're like, hey, I've been a really good friend to any number of you, and you're all just a bunch of cackling, hackling magpies. I mean, I'm being a little extreme here, but this is the Mars Pluto energy, and we want to be recognized for our actions, which is what Mars is. And here comes Pluto, and it's like, if we don't, and again, with Jupiter coming in here, it makes it bigger, right? That's what it does. So it makes it bigger whether we get some degree of recognition or not. And so what happens is that now all of a sudden this energy becomes very self-destructive, and I feel like it has to be, you have to diffuse it. You have to diffuse this energy. Remember, Aquarius is an incredibly mental sign. So you literally have to work it out of your body. You have to work this out of your body so that you are not explosive in social situations. Now, sometimes it's the way it is, right? Like I got into it on Sunday night with somebody in chat, who was, I thought, being an asshole. And I got kind of explosive, right? Which I used to do it a lot more. I don't do it as much anymore because I don't want it to take away from what I'm doing with the show. And also, if you do it too much, it just, it's like, oh, there he goes again. There he goes again. Get off my lawn, guy. But I felt it, right? I felt it on Sunday night. So there's this energy in the air right now, and you have to, it's very mental, right? Sun, Mercury, Pluto, Mars, all Aquarius, all heady. And the thing with Aquarius is that we also get this download, which is, well, we need to be fair. We need to be fair. We need to live up to some kind of egalitarian and Aquarian standard. All those things are being challenged right now. I mean, look at all the Aquarian planets: Sun square Uranus, right? Mercury square Jupiter, Pluto square Jupiter, Mars square Jupiter. All these ideas of being fair and egalitarian, and everybody has a seat at the table, right? They're all being challenged. They're all being challenged. And it usually comes up with the individual who's probably been doing that for a while. And then they realize, well, to quote the famous Pete Shelley in the Buzzcocks, what do I get? Right? What do I get? And there's a lot of what do I get energy in the air today. And I feel like that you have to work it out on a physical level. You have to work it out on a physical level, because if you don't work it out on a physical level, this energy is explosive. It's disruptive. It can put friendships at risk. And sometimes you got to put some TNT down, and you got to push the lever and blow the shit up. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes that is the only thing that you can do. And there is a lot of this energy in the air right now. It's very explosive. So I would say if you value how you distribute your energy, try to work it out physically. And this is going on for a while. And the thing with Aquarius is that it is so detached in a lot of ways that we can become convinced of our position, because we're sitting in this kind of ivory tower. Nobody can really get to us or talk to us. And Aquarius is it's cold. It's a cold energy. So we're dealing with a lot of just, very cool vapors in the air. And when people are cold or cool, they lack the component of compassion, empathy, and human warmth. And it's like what scientists do. I mean, Aquarius is the sign that rules science, and our True Hemp Science Star of the Day is really the epitome in a lot of ways of the Aquarian scientist, which we'll get into in a minute here. And it's just about, I'm just so objective and so removed from everything that I don't give a shit. It's not my problem. It's their problem. And at the end of the day, when you try to, put the pieces of the bodies back together again, all of a sudden now you're the one that's tasked with some of that or even all of that. So there are times when, and Aquarius can be very self-destructive. I think the two most self-destructive signs in the zodiac are Aquarius and Scorpio. And it's like no coincidence that they're both fixed signs and they're both connected to this eagle and the serpent, right? With the transmutation of your lower energies, and then the sort of the ascent of the lower energies, right? Up the back, through the spine, the Kundalini, like the vision of the eagle, the pineal gland, the third eye. I mean, so if you can channel those energies, hallelujah, right? Great. But if not, sometimes they're very self-destructive, and that's kind of a tone for today. Venus is at 26 Capricorn, so it's getting ready to join the party as well, right? It'll be there in 4 days, and the sun will be at 28 Aquarius. So we're going to have a super stellium in Aquarius in about 4 days. Like, wow. Uh, Major planetary activity. And usually when that happens, there's big changes. And they're not always easy changes. Not always easy. Highly disruptive. Okay, so what else do we have here? We do have Venus in sextile with Neptune. Thank God for that. That's the empathy sort of break, right? Like you have a little bit of a break here. This is the empathy break. This is the compassion break. And this can kind of divert you a little bit from the jagged edges here of all this, squared up and chaotic and in some ways kind of maniacal energy. I mean, Aquarius can be a little bit maniacal, truly. And so this Venus Neptune sextile is like, all right, slow down, pump the brakes. And even in Capricorn, which isn't always the most empathetic of signs, right? Venus here in Capricorn gets you to understand that some of your bonds are very long lasting. And some of them they have met the test of time. Almost said the taste of time. What does time taste like? That's an interesting concept. Anyway, so this Venus Neptune sextile is a good kind of like just slide off of there. If you feel like you're just barreling down the highway, right, and you feel like this road rage is kind of mounting inside you, pull off on the side of the road, right? Get on the frontage road for a little bit. You get on the frontage road, pull off, maybe pull into a Buc-ee's. I don't know, not Buc-ee's. I don't like Buc-ee's, but pull into Flying V or whatever the fuck it is, and get something to drink and slow down and take stock of your journey and where kind of not just where you're going, but the state of your journey. Like who's the person that's driving the vehicle? And who does this person connect with? And how do they connect with the people in their lives that have some degree of meaning? This is a really important little sextile here because it can diffuse, I don't know if you've ever done this before or had this in your life, but you get into an argument with somebody, right? And usually it happens when you're younger. When I was a hothead, when I was young, I was a hothead. So I'd get into arguments with people, and I'd want to go over and settle those arguments, right? And I remember one point, there was a certain time in my life where I was dead set on doing that. And as I'm going to this place, I say to myself, why don't you stop somewhere? Why don't you stop somewhere and think about what you are about to do? And that's what I did. I stopped, I pulled over, I spent about an hour at a bar, one of these, very commercial restaurants. I don't know what the fuck it was. And I was talking with this woman who was the bartender, and she shared me details about her life. And I'm like, holy shit, I've got it pretty good. Right? I mean, based on what she was telling me about her life, I've got it pretty good. And I stayed there long enough so that whatever charge I had was diffused and my perspective had changed. And then I eventually rerouted myself and I did not, kind of go down that jagged path. Right. So it's a metaphor for what I'm talking about. Just get off the road for a little bit and, realize what you're doing, what you're thinking, what you're saying. Sit down, have a conversation, call somebody, right? Take some of the heat off. The tension is still there. I mean, it is still there, but there's a high degree of possibility that you avoid disaster and catastrophe because we have this Mercury square Uranus, Sun square Uranus. It's really Mercury. Mercury's travel. This is accident city, right? When you're behind the wheel of your car, be clear, please. Or even just your vehicle, like you are a vehicle, you're driving your vehicle. Be clear, take your time, right? Sort out what's really important because this energy is really confrontational. If for some reason you were drawn into confrontation, let's hope that it is after you've sort of taken this little bit of a jog and a little bit of a respite. And then you can deal with this jagged energy a lot better. What else do we have? We've got Mercury coming, and we've got this hot moon, man. This Aries moon is hot, right? It's hot. It's ready to go. It's kind of inflamed. The emotional state is inflamed, and it's conjuncting Chiron. And watch out for people today that are going to bring you a lot of victim energy. Just watch out for it. And you think, well, the moon in Aries is not a victim. Well, when it's conjunct Chiron, it is. And yeah, and boy, people are, they're primed for justifying their wounds, and they don't want to hear about it. They don't want to hear about it. But if you can pull off the highway for a little bit, gather yourself, and now we have this Mercury sextile to the moon, and I think people might be able to have reasonable conversations, but you can't come in here. You can't come in here and expect to just sort of redirect this energy. Now, from an instinctual perspective, if this is you and not another person, and we have this sextile to Mercury, listen to your instincts, please. Very important. Very important. Pay attention to your instincts today. It can save your life. Truly save your life. It might save the life of others too. I would not be surprised if we do read some or hear about some acts of heroism today where somebody acts swiftly and winds up pulling somebody out of a state of duress. It's an intense day, boys and girls. The energy is jagged. It's seismic. That's another thing about this energy. It's seismic. And we've been having these earthquakes in California, and who knows what the hell they're doing in South America now. So I also feel like that this seismic energy is part of the mix. Definitely part of the mix. And the more that we get, or the closer that Mars gets into that square with Uranus, the greater I think we have this potential for a massive earthquake. And, if you want to go into sort of the dark conspiratorial world, the technologies that go along with that as well, because Aquarius is technological. Okay, there you go. That's the Astro Weather. Wow, I did not expect it to be that dramatic in a lot of ways. So why don't I bring my banner up here? All right, let's get into some True Hemp Science with our True Hemp Science star of the day. I think Chris still has his special going on. It's Valentine's Day special. Let's see what we have here. We got to give you the lowdown on the code. Okay, so if you go to True Hemp Science, you are. Hold on, where'd it go? 15% off a bundle of 4. So it's 20. So these products that he has, these are the new products that he has. And the password that you want to know, and it's all in caps, is love is water. So these are the nano water emulsified new products that he has. And let me give you just a quick glance at his new products, his new nano emulsified products. And there they are. They're all right here, right? This is what Chris has been in the lab with. This stuff right here. So we have Dose, the sleep remedy, organic CBD plus CDN, the G53 Lumina, the Reviva, and the Solara, right? So, we've got, if I'm not mistaken, these are the bad boys that are on sale. So if you type in "love is water" all caps, you will get 15% off, right? And then 25% off the entire bundle of 4. So this is cutting edge CBD. Nobody else is doing this the way Chris is doing it, and combining CBDA oil, G53 Lumina, the CBD plus the CD. And the thing is, you don't need a lot of these. You just need like 3 drops. So again, it looks like it's expensive, but you're going to get a lot of mileage out of one bottle. That's how concentrated and powerful these products are. So again, the code word is "love is water," all caps. There you go. All right. Here's our True Hemp Science star of the day. Probably one of the most controversial men of the 20th century. His name is William Shockley. Some of you may have heard of him. In case you haven't, he is the co-founder of the transistor, one of the little inventions that's changed all of our lives. And it really set up the transistor age, which takes place in the 1960s. And it brings about miniaturization. Everything gets smaller. So he won a Nobel Prize for his work with transistors. And you can see, with Uranus, we've determined that Uranus up here can be pretty technological. And sure enough, it is. And he has Mercury conjunct Uranus as well. Shockley's ideas are radical. Beyond the fact that he's brilliant, he's quite radical. And if you go down the Shockley rabbit hole, you will find that downstream from William Shockley are some of the guys who are behind the Georgia Guidestones. And it's not Shockley himself, but they are sort of his ideological adherents. Now, Shockley is also, of course, an Aquarian, and Aquarius is science, right? He is science, and he is a chilly motherfucker. Like, he does not have a lot of compassion, a lot of empathy. He has Neptune. That's it. Neptune and Cancer, 3rd house, right? And so he has a Mars-Neptune trine, which sextile rather, which is, he's got a little creativity in him. But it's his Neptune is completely stressed. He obviously makes a shit ton of money off of, again, technology. Pluto in Gemini in the 2nd house. When I think of the transistor age, I think of Gemini. I think of computers and Wi-Fi and uh, the internet as being very Aquarian. But transistors were Aquarian too. I mean, they set up this whole idea of radio and radio waves. So here's the radio waves right there in his 11th house. Now he also has Mars on his ascendant, and this is an important aspect for Shockley because he's bullheaded and very difficult to work with. I believe he worked for, was it Bell Labs or something, and they kicked his ass out because nobody wanted to work with him. He was one of these guys who was an ivory tower guy, super bright, could not relate to people at all, unless, of course, they were of the same ilk and the same level of intellect. In which case, he was probably more than willing to share some of his more radical ideas, and he evolves along the lines of eugenics. And we can see the Saturn moon kind of wide conjunction in the 12th house, right? In Aries, Mars, the ruler of Aries. And, I mean, I guess if you wanted to, you could pin the tail of an Aryan on Shockley. It wouldn't be out of the question. He was clearly engaged in his latter day pursuits of eliminating people from the gene pool who can't make reasonable contributions to society. And he made no bones about it. And I remember one time as a kid, I didn't know who this guy was, but I was watching the Tomorrow Show with Tom Snyder. He actually had him on the show, and he was debating the intellectual inferiority of blacks. And he was debating this black guy on the show with Tom Snyder, and he was bringing up test scores and all this other stuff. And I'm like, wow, do people really believe this? Right? Like, I'm like, this is fascinating shit. And it struck me that the guy that he was debating seemed to be, and I'm just being honest. I'm just being honest here. And I don't know if they rigged this thing, or I don't know how they figured out who he was debating, but clearly he seemed to be intellectually inferior to Shockley. But that wouldn't be hard because this guy probably had an IQ of about 185. Like, he was off the charts bright. So pretty much anybody who's going to sit across from him, even if you've got some wattage, it's kind of like 150 watt bulb in your house, and outside you got one of those searchlights, right? It's like, well, which one's going to be brighter? One's going to provide some luminescence, but the other one is just going to blind you. And this is also the T-square in Shockley's chart. Like, he's very difficult to get along with. Mercury square Saturn, Mercury square Moon, right? Uranus square Saturn. He's gonna. I'm sorry, Mercury square Saturn, not the Moon. He's just gonna be somebody who's difficult, right? He's not going to give any quarter, and certainly he doesn't have. What's interesting here about the Neptune square is I could see where he was emotionally deficient with his parents. Clearly emotionally deficient with his parents. Maybe he got a little bit of something from his father, but not his mother at all. No, there's not. And again, when was he born? 1910, pre-World War One. Like, what were people like back then? They're probably pretty hard. They're pretty tough people. And even if he was born into a middle-class society in England, it's like stiff upper lip and all that shit, right? And I think that's his Achilles heel. His Achilles heel was that he probably had some emotions that he felt ashamed of in a lot of ways. And I think his life was an exercise in dealing with his secrets and his emotional vulnerability around his upbringing. And you got that Grand Cross there, and Good luck working that out. He's a fascinating character, completely unapologetic to the day he passed away, and co-founder of the Transistor and a Nobel Prize winner. There's your Aquarian energy, the best and the worst, the brightest and the sharpest, but so sharp, it's a tool that cuts. William Shockley. All right. Thanks for being here and hanging in here while I got it together. I'm going to fire up 15 minutes of flame. I'm probably looking at about 9:45 because I just have to get it together. So it's going to be over on Boxcast. And let me see if I can just throw this Boxcast link in here. Hold on. I have a channel over on Boxcast. I have a link for that channel. So let me just throw this in here. And if you guys want to join me, we're probably looking at. I'm going to try to get this thing running by about 9:45. If you want to jump in, let me just throw this channel up here. Whoa! It says embed, edit channel, view on Boxcast TV. Okay, so that's going to be the last show. Yeah. They have a Boxcast. Here, let's do this. Here we go. Now I got it. Now I'm cooking with gas right here. There we go. That's not it. Hold on. Come on, Boxcast. Do what you're supposed to do. Embed type, preview. Let's see what we got here. Advanced player settings and link. Let's try this. Let's throw this in here. That's wild, man. It doesn't want to give me a link on this thing. So, let's try this. Okay, this should work. Yeah, I'm working on it right now. Here we go. There we go. All right, try that. Let's see what happens. Give me about 10 minutes. Let me fire this thing up. Or 15 minutes, right? 9:25, 9:35, that's 10, 20 minutes. Give me 20 minutes. Let me fire this thing up. Thanks, everybody. If you feel like buying me a cup of coffee, there's a link in the description for the show. And don't forget to hit the thumbs up, subscribe, like, all that stuff that I'm supposed to tell you to do. Okay, take care. See you soon. Bye for now.